Hello, you wonderful people. So for today's video, I just want to have a discussion about the deleted Joker scene from Matt Reeves' The Batman that came out, and just kind of give my general thoughts about it. And obviously I've heard like some opinions here and there about how they felt about it, and especially how some people felt about the other scene in the movie, because this deleted scene is kind of a companion piece, cut for whatever reason. I talked about this in another place, but I figured I'd make a video out of it because, just kind of fully express my thoughts. Is that I really liked it. It actually, and feel however you want to feel about this comparison. I like Gotham. Once again, that's a larger conversation. I know not a lot of people did, but this version of Joker kind of reminded me of a blend between some version of that Joker, I guess, where that Joker kind of ended up, because if you've seen Gotham, that Joker went many different directions over the course of that series. So that Joker meets maybe certain elements of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and some Heath Ledger elements to it too, but I definitely make a lot of Telltale Batman comparisons. Now the aesthetic reminds me of like a Heath Ledger meets Gotham, meets the TV show Gotham aesthetic, but elements about what this character is in this universe, that he's already a pre-established villain to some extent, that he is someone that Bruce/Batman has already encountered and is already locked up in Arkham Asylum. So I don't remember whether I just heard that information, because I think that information has surfaced around, so like I don't remember if that's where I got that from. So like I went into because I made a thoughts and theories video recently where I talked about that, because I was already, for whatever reason, under the impression this wasn't like the Joker, that he hadn't become the Joker yet. And I don't know whether it was just, I think that information was already out there, and I think, because I was like, I don't think I made those mental gymnastics myself. But regardless, whatever the case may be, Matt Reeves has, I have subsequently learned, like, Matt Reeves has like publicly said like this isn't the Joker yet. And obviously there's a conversation, and I've talked about it before, about what role this Joker potentially could play going forward. But regardless, I've talked about this a little bit too. The movie as a whole, The Batman, gave me Telltale Batman vibes, and because it did, they do very similar things. One, they made the Waynes not squeaky clean, which I'm not saying that it was the only one that's ever done it. That was my first introduction to a story that made the Waynes not so squeaky clean, was the Telltale Batman game. I think Gotham touches on that too, because I think that also folds into like the Court of Owls stuff with his family as well. But they also did a similar thing with Joker. He popped up, and just like in this very, and the comparison that Matt Reeves made, as well as other people have made, like very Silence of the Lamb, like Clarice and Hannibal Lecter thing that's kind of going on between Batman and Joker. Well, Joker. But the fact is that I even love that he's making reference to like, right, like it's our anniversary, it's paper. What, you think I'm cheap or something? Like, I think in a psychotic way there is a little bit of playfulness in that, and I really like that. Like it just, that's how it felt to me. But making the Telltale Batman comparison, that he was John Doe. And then eventually he became some version of the Joker. Obviously, like, that character can change a little bit based on like your decisions throughout the game, whether he becomes a full-blown villain from the start or already started off kind of trying to be a hero. That just depends on what route you try to take. So I definitely got like those vibes of like, right, he's going to grow into the Joker, which, I mean, I'm sure, because I know a lot of people had, or at least some people had some complaints about that with Joaquin Phoenix. It's like, right, is this really the Joker that we come to know, like the clown prince of crime? Like, they just didn't see this guy being that criminal mastermind. And I was like, well, maybe, but then my thought was, well, he could very much end up being like what they initially presented as Gotham's Joker, in the sense of, it's going to be a whole tangent within itself, but the initial way they set up Joker in Gotham made it seem like, oh, Jerome wasn't going to be Joker. He was going to be the dude who inspired Joker. And that's what I started thinking about Joaquin Phoenix's Joker. What if he's not the actual Joker that would exist in that continuity? What if he's the guy that would eventually inspire the Clown Prince of Crime, the one who would become the person that is more traditionally in line with what people would expect from the Joker? That's kind of my thoughts for maybe like a Joker 2 type of movie and stuff like that. Because I think even Todd Phillips has said like, oh, there's no guarantee that this is the Joker. No one really, so I think it's a lot of those conversations, as well as, once again, making, your own mental gymnastics. But I think a lot of people have had those same discussions. So I don't think this is going to be a thing of, oh man, he's going to like, he's the guy that inspires the Joker. I'm like, no, I think this is going to be the guy who becomes the Joker. But I think he's going to be that person that is surrounded in like mystery, just like John Doe. Because like there's conversations in Telltale Batman about like, how did John Doe get here? Like I think you're talking to the ventriloquist, and he's like, oh yeah, like I don't know, he just popped up here like he'd actually been here the whole time. None of even the doctors know when and how he got here. Like John Doe's just the name they gave him because once again they don't know his name. I mean that's what the purpose of John Doe anyway. So that was kind of stupid of me to say, but you get what I'm trying to say. So I definitely get vibes in this that he might not be like, you know, maybe he can eventually rise to become that version of the Joker that people might typically associate, or, you know, or at least more inclined to be more acquainted with. So, because even that John Doe, like I said, he's in one episode and a fraction of an episode in the first season of Telltale, and then in the second season you see the progression of his character as he's with, you know, the pack, you know, without going into like spoilers and stuff like that, and like I said, eventually becoming the Joker that you a version of the Joker. So, and obviously I also had this conversation too because like I said, I think Matt Reeves talked about this, but I definitely brought it up during my thoughts and theories, is that this Joker doesn't have to be the main villain. Now, whether he becomes a main villain in the third movie, or whether he plays a very behind-the-scenes type of role, as I kind of alluded to. I used these wording recently. I don't know if I used it in my thoughts and theories, but the devil whispering in people's ears. He's doing that with Riddler at the end of the Batman, so who's to say he's not doing the same thing, especially what we got in this deleted scene. We definitely get vibes that he's doing that, like whispering in Bruce's ears, and so who's to say he doesn't do that to other villains in Arkham, you know, being that devil on everyone's shoulder, especially because Bruce might have to turn to him from time to time, you know, once again, to the very Hannibal Lecter-esque manner. Which I also, I think I made the comparison to, I'm not well versed in the Long Halloween, but I know that Calendar Man plays some like role in it, and I'm thinking like, because this has some, as people have said, has some Long Halloween elements to it, that what if he kind of plays a little bit of a Calendar Man role in it, that he isn't like the main villain, is establishing that he exists in this continuity, and like I said, he's more of a minor behind the scenes villain that, you know, maybe at the end of the second movie he busts out of Arkham and it's like, oh, it's time to rain chaos upon Arkham, and like he set the groundwork that he's been planning and being meticulous the entire time, and his rise to becoming the Joker is him helping unleash all these supervillains on Gotham. Like it could be like a third movie climax type of thing if once again, you know, this ends up being a trilogy type thing. So but I could definitely see him in a second movie just being like whispering to people, guiding people in certain directions and stuff like that. Because I'd also talked about this recently with the, you know, the discussion. The Telltale game, he's the one that points Bruce in the direction of the Lady Arkham situation. I won't spoil anything around that if you haven't seen it, but he knows a lot about Lady Arkham's background, who Lady Arkham is and why. And you definitely get those vibes here. Like he's like, oh, he knows so much. It's like, oh no, this is someone who might have gotten bullied or whatever. Like this is a personal vendetta. Like he comes off like, oh, he knows so much. And I think that's interesting because a lot of those discussions in Telltale related around the Waynes and the Arkhams and just Bruce's, it kind of leans itself to the whole like, right, Bruce, your family isn't what you thought they were type of thing. He's the one that kind of awakened a lot of that, or to open Bruce's eyes to him. So what if he does a similar thing in this? Especially because Riddler already opened his eyes, as well as Falcone opened his eyes to so much more about his family. But Joker, especially because you're already in Arkham, you could be the linchpin, whereas like Riddler, you know, with like the Riddler trophies and stuff like that, or like the Arkham recordings and stuff like that in the Rocksteady Batman games. Like what if Joker kind of, this version of Joker kind of serves a similar role of like, oh, let me tell you all the deep, dark secrets about your family. And that could in itself tie into if they decided to do like a Court of Owls thing, obviously with all the families of Gotham, and his family being two of the biggest families in Gotham, being the Waynes and the Arkhams. And, you know, that could definitely, he could play some role in pointing Bruce in the right direction if they decide to go down like a Court of Owls type of situation. I mean, so these are just some of the things I'm kind of thinking about. I'd love to know your thoughts in general, how you felt about it. I guess I didn't really say, but well, I did. I really liked it. I like Barry Keoghan's performance there. Like, I think it's very interesting, and just like how very, I don't know, I guess it, like, maybe it is extra, I don't know, it's just, he is so soft-spoken, and I like that it is like, yeah, he does his own laugh, just like the John Doe, like, didn't because I think everyone kind of thinks of like the Hamill laugh, and you know, even Ledger had his own like Hamill-esque laugh, but not really. So I think once again it's that conversation of that's the problem, there being so many Jokers, like you're going to compare and contrast. But I'm also like, you know, it's like there's also like there's the animated Joker that's kicking it in Harley Quinn. So, and I'm not trying to compare and contrast, but I can understand why people couldn't help. But I really like this version, and I'm curious to see, because there's also the talk about that this version of Joker wasn't born from like an acid bath dating, that his whole situation is a medical condition. So I guess kind of adding more to that grounded realism rather than leaning into like the kind of craziness that is like, oh, how Two-Face got made or how Harley and Joker were made. Like, so kind of leaning away from that and kind of doing your own thing to some extent. Maybe that's what they're doing, because obviously once again it also plays into the Joker of like, you know, the whole thing of like, oh, do you want to know how I got these scars, telling different stories over and over again, and that obviously applies and is applicable to every version of the Joker, with the exception of Joaquin Phoenix's Joker, because that was kind of a full-blown origin story. But yeah, obviously like but that's also like, right, how much was inside your head and how much was real. I'm really excited to see what ultimately they end up doing with the Joker. Like I said, I think it'd be really interesting if you did just make him purely a background character, maybe for the next movie, then do something with him in the potential third movie, or maybe even still then maybe end the movie on a bit of a, oh, what's going to happen next, by making it, no, he gets out in the third movie and then he's full-blown Jokering it, like raining chaos down. Like, there's also talks about the Arkham show, because I think recent news came out that the GCPD show is not a thing anymore. I'm sure maybe a lot of those elements are being rolled into some form, shape or form, this potential Arkham series. So maybe we get more of Barry Keoghan's Joker there, maybe, you know, setting up other villains that have already been established in his universe, or maybe ones that are obviously much like him still earlier in their career, like Riddler. We'll ultimately have to wait and see, but I kind of went on a tangent there. But like I said, just let me know your thoughts. I enjoyed both scenes, even the original one that was still in the movie. I know I've heard a few opinions where people didn't like that. I really enjoyed it, and I enjoyed this too. It's kind of a bummer it wasn't in the movie for whatever reason, whether it's just a time situation or what, because some people are like, either include both scenes or cut both scenes. It's kind of the opinion I've heard a few people online say. Like I said, just let me know your thoughts, how you felt about it. Did you like the scene? Did you like this portrayal of Joker? What are your thoughts about some of the stuff I brought up? What are just your own thoughts in general? What are some things that you picked up online, maybe that you've heard other opinions that you maybe agree with, that you disagree with? Just let me know. I'd love to have the conversation. Really, that's all I wanted to talk about. So the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.